Hello, welcome here. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where the world suddenly feels off, where the ground beneath your feet seems to shift, and you begin to question not just a specific event, but your very own perceptions, your memories, even your sanity? Perhaps you've been in conversations where a gnawing uncertainty creeps in, leaving you feeling emotionally drained, confused, and profoundly alone, even when you're with someone. It's a subtle form of torment, often disguised as care, concern, or even love. But its true intention is far more sinister: control, manipulation, and the slow, agonizing erosion of your self-worth. It's a silent assault on your psychological integrity, and it can leave scars far deeper than any physical wound. The modern world, with its rapid pace and complex social dynamics, can make us we crave connection, understanding, and acceptance, and sometimes in that yearning, we unknowingly open the door to those who would exploit our deepest human needs. We might rationalize away discomfort, dismiss our gut feelings, or even blame ourselves for the unsettling dynamics we experience. But your intuition, that quiet voice within, is often trying to tell you something vital. It's a primal alarm system, and when that alarm bell rings, even faintly, it's imperative to listen. Today we're going to talk about 3 specific sentences, seemingly innocuous on the surface, that when uttered by someone in your life should immediately trigger that internal alarm. These aren't just casual remarks, they are psychological tripwires, potent signals that you are dealing with someone who may not have your best interests at heart, someone who might be Understanding these sentences isn't just about identifying manipulators, it is about empowering yourself, about reclaiming your narrative, and about fortifying your psychological defenses. It is about recognizing the subtle yet devastating tactics that can strip away your confidence and leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Let's dive deep into the psychology behind these phrases, explore why they are so dangerous, and most importantly, equip you with the tools to respond effectively, to protect your inner sanctuary, and to build a life surrounded by genuine respect and authentic connection. It is time to learn to spot the red flags, to trust your gut, and to protect your peace. The first sentence, a true classic in the manipulator's playbook, often comes in variations like, "You're overreacting," "You're too sensitive," "I never said that," or "You're imagining things." These phrases are the hallmarks of a tactic known as gaslighting. It's a term that originates from the 1938 play and subsequent 1944 film Gaslight, where a husband slowly manipulates his wife into believing she's losing her mind, dimming the gaslights in their home and then denying any change, making her question her own sanity. Psychologically, gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where a person or a group covertly sows seeds of doubt in a targeted individual. The ultimate goal is to destabilize the victim's sense of self and reality, thereby gaining power and control over them. Imagine for a moment a painter standing before their canvas. They are meticulously mixing colors, carefully applying strokes, creating a vivid landscape based on their vision. Now imagine someone else coming into the studio, and every time the painter points to a color, the intruder insists it's a different shade. Or, "You never painted that tree, it was always there." Over time, if this happens consistently, the painter would begin to doubt their own eyes, their own artistic ability, their very perception of the world they've created. This is precisely what gaslighting does to your inner landscape. It challenges your experiential truth, your emotional truth, and your factual truth, leaving you disoriented and vulnerable. Instead, it starts with small, almost imperceptible denials. Perhaps you recall a conversation, and the other person says, "I don't remember saying that," or "You must have misunderstood." In a healthy relationship, such a statement might lead to clarification, an open discussion, but in a gaslighting dynamic, these denials are designed to chip away at your confidence, to make you question the validity of your own memory. You might start second, guessing your memories, replaying conversations, wondering if you genuinely misheard or misinterpreted something. This internal conflict is precisely what the manipulator aims for. The gaslighter thrives on this uncertainty because it places them in a position of authority regarding reality. If you can't trust your own mind, you become reliant on their interpretation of events, their version of the truth. Think about the impact on your mental health. When your reality is constantly being challenged, you can develop severe anxiety, feel perpetually confused, and even experience symptoms akin to post-traumatic stress. Your sense of self becomes fragmented, and you might start to believe that something is inherently wrong with you. You might withdraw, become isolated, and lose your ability to trust your own judgment, leading to the phrases, "you're overreacting," or "you're too sensitive," are particularly damaging, because they invalidate your emotional experience. Our emotions are legitimate responses to our perceptions of the world. To be told that our feelings are disproportionate or incorrect is to deny a fundamental aspect of our humanity. It suggests that our internal landscape is flawed, broken, or simply wrong. If you are constantly told you are too sensitive, you learn to suppress your natural emotional responses. You may begin to apologize for your feelings, or even stop feeling them altogether, leading to emotional numbness or an inability to articulate your needs. This suppression can manifest in physical symptoms, such as chronic stress, headaches, or digestive issues, as your body silently bears the burden of unexpressed emotion. In romantic relationships, gaslighting can be particularly devastating. A partner might deny past promises, rewrite shared history, or dismiss your feelings about their hurtful behavior, all while professing their love and concern for your well-being. They might project their own flaws onto you, accusing you of being insecure, jealous, or controlling, when those are, in fact, their own traits. This creates a dizzying dance of confusion where you are perpetually on the defensive, trying to prove your sanity while simultaneously trying to salvage a relationship that is, by its very nature, toxic in familial relationships. Gaslighting can be generational, a learned pattern passed down. A parent might consistently deny mistreatment from childhood, making an adult child doubt their memories of abuse or neglect. This can make healing incredibly difficult, as the very foundation of one's personal history is undermined. In the workplace, a supervisor might take credit for your ideas, then deny ever hearing them from you or accuse you of incompetence when you try to clarify. This erodes your professional confidence and makes you question your abilities, impacting your career trajectory and job satisfaction. So how do you defend? Your intuition is a powerful, often subconscious, processor of information. When something feels off, even if you can't articulate why, listen to that feeling. It is often your subconscious mind picking up on subtle cues that your conscious mind hasn't yet processed. Do not dismiss it. Journaling can be an incredibly powerful tool. By writing down conversations, events, and your feelings as they happen, it allows you to refer back to objective facts, reinforcing your trust in your own perception. Furthermore, seek external validation from trusted sources. Talk to a close friend, a family member who has your best interests at heart, or a therapist. Explain what is happening. A neutral, objective perspective can help you distinguish between your legitimate feelings and the manipulative narratives being imposed upon. A therapist, in particular, can provide professional guidance, help you process the emotional trauma, and equip you with coping mechanisms. Setting boundaries is another vital defense. This means clearly communicating what you will and will not tolerate. For a gaslighter, this might involve saying, "I remember it differently," or "my feelings are valid, regardless of your opinion." The key is to disengage from the argument about whose reality. This can be incredibly challenging because manipulators will often escalate their tactics when faced with boundaries. They might accuse you of being stubborn, uncooperative, or even crazy. This is a critical moment. Hold firm. Your peace of mind depends on it. A specific technique that can be highly effective is called the gray rock method. This involves making yourself as uninteresting and unresponsive as possible to the manipulator. When they try to engage in gaslighting or argument, respond with neutral, unemotional, and brief answers. Do not provide them with any emotional fuel or rise to their provocations. This often frustrates the manipulator, as they thrive on your emotional reactions, and without that engagement, their tactics lose their power. Finally, consider the possibility of limiting contact, or in severe cases, this is a difficult decision, especially when the manipulator is someone you love or are closely connected to. But remember, your mental and emotional health is paramount. No relationship is worth sacrificing your sense of self or your sanity. This brings us to a moment for reflection. If you are finding this exploration resonating deeply, if these insights are providing some clarity or an aha moment about dynamics in your support helps us continue to create content that empowers individuals to navigate the complexities of human relationships and psychology with greater understanding and resilience. Let's move on to the second sentence, a phrase that often minimizes your pain and invalidates your experiences. It's not that big of a deal. Why are you always so negative? You shouldn't feel that way, or other people. These statements, while sometimes delivered with an intention of trying to cheer you up or provide perspective, are often deeply damaging because they invalidate your emotional reality. Emotional invalidation is the process of rejecting, dismissing, or judging another person's feelings or experiences. It sends a message that your emotions are wrong, unreasonable, or unimportant, leading to profound feelings of loneliness. Imagine trying to explain to someone that you've broken your leg, and their response is, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Other people have 2 broken legs." Or, "Why are you always so dramatic about your injuries?" While such an analogy might seem extreme, it accurately reflects the psychological impact of emotional invalidation. It's a denial of your internal experience, a minimization of your... Psychologically, humans have a fundamental need to be seen, heard, and understood. This is particularly true for our emotional experiences. When we express our feelings, we are opening up a vulnerable part of ourselves, seeking connection and empathy. When those feelings are met with invalidation, it's like being hit with a cold wave. It communicates that your internal world is not safe to share, that your emotions are a burden. This can lead to a phenomenon known as emotional suppression, where individuals learn to hide or deny their feelings to avoid further invalidation or conflict. While emotional regulation is healthy, chronic emotional suppression is not. It can lead to a host of problems, including anxiety, depression, anger issues, and even physical ailments, as unaddressed emotions find other ways to manifest. When someone consistently tells you, "It's not that big of a deal," they are essentially telling you that your subjective experience of pain, grief, excitement, or frustration is unwarranted. They are, in effect, trying to dictate how you should feel. This can be particularly insidious because it often comes from people who claim to care about you, say a parent, a partner, or a close friend. Their intention might be to help you feel better, but the method it robs you of the opportunity to process your emotions, to feel them fully, and to move through them naturally. Instead, it teaches you to bottle them up, to distrust your own emotional barometer. Consider the impact of phrases like, "Why are you always so negative?" This isn't an invitation for understanding, it is a judgment. It suggests that your perspective is inherently flawed, or that you are deliberately choosing to be unhappy. Instead of engaging with your feelings, they externalize the problem, making you responsible for their emotional comfort. The phrase, "You shouldn't feel that way," is perhaps one of the most direct forms of invalidation. It's an outright denial of your emotional state. It implies that your feelings are a choice, that you have control over them in a conscious way, which often isn't true. Emotions are complex. Often, to tell someone they shouldn't feel a certain way is to negate their authentic experience and impose an external standard onto their internal world, and the classic, "Other people have it worse." While it is true that suffering is relative and many people face immense hardships, this phrase, in the context of personal distress, is not helpful. It's a competitive form of empathy, suggesting that your pain isn't valid unless it denies the universality of human suffering and the legitimacy of individual experience. Your pain is your pain, and it deserves to be acknowledged, not compared and dismissed. In childhood, consistent emotional invalidation from caregivers can have profound and lasting effects. Children who are told their feelings are wrong or too much may grow up struggling with emotional expression, developing insecure attachment styles. They may become people pleasers, constantly seeking external validation, or they may internalize their emotions, leading to anxiety and depression. In adult relationships, invalidation creates emotional distance. When one partner consistently dismisses the other's feelings, a chasm opens between them. Intimacy, which thrives on vulnerability and shared emotional experiences, becomes impossible. Over time, the invalidated partner may stop sharing their true feelings, leading to resentment, isolation within the relationship, and a gradual erosion of trust. In the workplace, an invalidating boss or colleague can create a toxic environment where employees feel unheard, undervalued, and emotionally unsafe. This impacts morale, productivity, and can lead to burnout as individuals feel they cannot express concern. So, what can you do when faced with emotional invalidation? The first and most critical step is to learn to self-validate. This means acknowledging and accepting your own emotions without judgment. Say to yourself, "I am feeling emotion, and that is okay, my feelings are valid." This internal affirmation is a powerful counter-narrative to external invalidation. You are reclaiming your emotional sovereignty. Practice mind when you feel anger, sadness, joy, or frustration. Pause and notice it. Where do you feel it in your body? What thoughts are associated with it? Simply observing your emotions without judgment can help you understand and accept them, rather than suppressing them. Communicate your needs clearly and assertively. Instead of saying, "You make me feel unimportant," which can sound accusatory, try using I statements. When specific behavior happens, I feel emotion because reason. For example, when you tell me my concerns aren't a big deal, I feel dismissed and unheard because my feelings are important to me. This focuses on your experience and feelings, rather than blaming the other person, making it more recognize that you are not responsible for another person's discomfort with your emotions. Some people are genuinely uncomfortable with strong emotions, either their own or others. Their invalidation might stem from their own unresolved issues, not from a deficiency in you. Understanding this can help you depersonalize their reactions and protect your emotional boundaries. Seek out relationships where surround yourself with people who practice empathy, who listen without judgment, and who can validate your experiences, even if they don't fully understand them. These are the connections that nourish your soul and support your emotional well-being. And if you are in a relationship where chronic invalidation is present and persistent, despite your efforts to communicate, it's a significant red flag. Just as we discussed with gaslighting, it can lead you to believe that there is something inherently wrong with your emotional makeup. Remember, your emotions are not a weakness. They are a vital part of your internal guidance system, providing you with information about your experiences and your needs. Honoring them is a profound act of self-care and self-respect. You are deserving of relationships where your entire self, including your emotional landscape, is met. If you're finding value in these insights, if they're helping you connect the dots in your own life and relationships, I'd be incredibly grateful if you'd show your support by hitting the like button on this video and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us reach more people who can benefit from these discussions. Now, let's explore the third sentence, a phrase that deftly shifts responsibility and places undue blame on you. It's your fault I did X. If you hadn't done Y, I wouldn't have done Z, or you made me angry. These statements are classic examples of blame, shifting, and a profound lack of personal accountability. They represent a fundamental refusal to take responsibility for one's own actions, choices, and emotional reactions, instead projecting that responsibility onto someone else. Psychologically, this is a defense mechanism. It is often easier for individuals to blame others than to confront their own shortcomings, mistakes, or uncomfortable emotions. Blame shifting protects their ego, maintaining a facade of blamelessness or superiority, but it comes at a tremendous cost to the relationship and the well-being of the person being blamed. Imagine two people building a wall together. One person accidentally drops a brick, causing a section of the wall to crumble. Instead of acknowledging their mistake and working to fix it, they turn to the other person and say, "Well, if you hadn't distracted me by so it's really your fault the wall is broken." This immediately creates an unfair burden, shifts the focus from problem solving to accusation, and leaves the innocent party feeling confused and unjustly blamed. This analogy highlights the core issue, the refusal to own one's agency. Every individual is responsible for their own thoughts, feelings, and actions. While external circumstances or the actions of others can certainly we always have a choice in how we respond. When someone says, "You made me angry," they are externalizing their emotional regulation. They are suggesting that their anger is a direct, unavoidable consequence of your actions, rather than an internal reaction they could choose to manage differently. This is a subtle but powerful form of manipulation because it implies that you are responsible for their emotional state. thereby giving them if you want them not to be angry, you must behave in a way that satisfies them. This is a highly restrictive and ultimately unhealthy dynamic. Consider the phrase, "It's your fault I did X." This is particularly egregious because it attributes direct causality to your actions for their negative behavior. If someone cheats on you and says, "It's your fault I cheated because you haven't been paying enough attention to me," they are completely. Cheating is a choice, not an inevitable outcome forced by another's perceived shortcomings. Such blame shifting is incredibly damaging to trust. How can you trust someone who refuses to take ownership of their behavior? It creates a dynamic where you are constantly walking on eggshells, fearing that any action or inaction on your part could be blamed for someone else's destructive choices. This can lead to chronic anxiety, self-blame. In familial contexts, parents might blame children for their own unhappiness or unfulfilled dreams. "I sacrificed everything for you, and look how you've turned out, disappointing me." This instills a crushing sense of guilt and an impossible burden on the child to fulfill the parent's emotional needs rather than pursuing their own path. In professional settings, a colleague who consistently blames others for project failures or missed deadlines not only creates a toxic work environment, but also prevents true problem solving and growth. If no one takes responsibility, mistakes are never learned from, and accountability becomes a foreign concept. The long-term impact of being in relationships with blame shifters is profound. You might This can lead to a severely distorted self-image, chronic guilt, and a pervasive sense of inadequacy. You might develop a pattern of pleasing, constantly striving to avoid being blamed, which erodes your authenticity and autonomy. It can also lead to a deep-seated resentment, as you carry the emotional weight of another person's unwillingness to grow. The cycle of blame. If one person never takes responsibility, genuine apologies are rare, and conflicts are never truly resolved. They merely fester and recur. This creates a perpetual state of unresolved tension and emotional stagnation within the relationship. So, how do you navigate interactions with someone who consistently shifts blame? The first step is to recognize that you are only responsible for your own actions and reactions. You are not responsible for another person's choices, behaviors, or emotional states. Internalize this truth deeply. When someone attempts to blame you, avoid falling into the trap of defending yourself or engaging in a blame game. This only fuels their narrative. Instead, you can respond with a clear, concise statement that reasserts personal responsibility. For example, if someone says, "You made me angry," you can respond with, "I understand you're feeling angry, and I'm responsible for my actions, but I'm not responsible for your emotions." Or, "I didn't intend to make you angry, and I can only control my own behavior." If they say, "It's your fault I did X," you can firmly state, "I am not responsible for your choices. You made your own decision." It's crucial to maintain your emotional boundaries in these moments. Do not absorb their projected guilt or shame. Remind yourself that their blame is a reflection of their inability to take accountability, not a reflection of your fault. Practice detachment. This doesn't mean becoming uncaring, but rather detaching from the emotional manipulation inherent in blame shifting. Observe their behavior without allowing it to infect your own. Understand that their need to blame is often rooted in their own insecurity, fear of failure, or an underdeveloped sense of self. This insight can help you approach their behavior with less personal offense and more analytical distance. Setting clear boundaries is once again paramount. This may involve stating, "I will not accept blame for your actions," or "I will not engage in conversations where you refuse to." If the blame shifting is persistent and destructive, it's a strong indicator that the relationship is unhealthy. You might need to limit your interactions, especially around sensitive topics, or consider if this relationship is serving your well-being. Holding yourself accountable for your own actions is an incredibly empowering practice. It allows you to learn from your mistakes, grow, and build genuine trust with others. When someone consistently refuses to do this, they are choosing a path that leads to stagnation and relational damage. Protecting yourself from blame, Shifters is about upholding your own integrity and refusing to carry the burden of someone else's refusal to face themselves. It is about recognizing that you are worthy of relationships built on mutual respect, honesty, and shared accountability. If these